Hey everybody, my name is Jim Farmer. I'm the festival director of Out on Film, Atlanta's LGBTQ Film Festival, and also an arts reporter for Georgia Voice. In the new film, Give or Take, New Yorker Martin returns to Cape Cod after the death of his father Kenneth to prepare his childhood home for sale. With his father's boyfriend Ted still living there, they butt heads and negotiate how to remember the man they both loved. Give or Take played it Out on Film in 2020, and it was a huge success. It won the jury award for best screenplay and also won the jury award for best ensemble. It was a film that I loved back then, still love to watch again last night. It is now getting a theatrical release and is available on DVD and digital February the 22nd. I am so thrilled to be talking to two-time Tony Award winner Norbert Leo Butz, who plays Ted and stars in the film.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for watching our little movie.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a film that we all love down here, but what made you want to be part of this?
Paul and Jamie, the screenwriters, Paul Riccio and Jamie Efros, sent me a script, I think, first, Jim, in 2017, and
Okay.
I wasn't familiar with either one of them. I think at the time I was doing Bloodline, and which was really dark. I was actually kind of looking for a comedy to do, something kind of light. This is light-ish, but it definitely has darker elements as well. But I got sent the script, and I just loved it right away. It moved me, made me laugh. I thought it was a very honest depiction of grief, of what everybody has to reckon with at some point.
Okay.
In this case, Ted has lost his partner of several years while they were not married. They had what they felt was a common law marriage.
Sure.
And this deceased man's middle-aged son, estranged middle-aged son, comes to the family home. And this bereft middle-aged guy, Ted, has to contend with this kind of antagonistic son. They have to get a man buried. They have to figure out a will. They have to figure out an estate. They have to sell a house. All these things that, as you get into middle age, I'm in my 50s now. I've lost both my parents now. It's so many people are deal with this. We all will eventually. And I liked that to tackle such a huge subject. What really moved me about the film, death and dying, that's just a bummer. It's interspersed with real gentle humor, which keeps it from being like disgustingly sweet or melodramatic. Do you know what I mean? Or too heavy-handed. And I like that. The characters were generous-hearted, even though they're flawed, and some of them have some big character defects, my character included. At heart, the film was filled with good-hearted people. And I don't know about you guys. So when we finally filmed it in 2019 or early 2020, spring, early 2020, we hadn't been through the pandemic yet. It was just about to hit. And seeing the film, I just saw it for the first time last week.
Oh, really?
At the premiere in New York.
Yeah.
And I think having come through the pandemic, reckoning with how divided our country is, reckoning with how cynical culture and politics have become, the movie hit me just like, I don't know, like a breath of fresh air, but again, not in a pandering or overly sentimental way. So for those reasons, I was really eager to jump in.
Exactly. I'm so glad that you all got a chance to see this in theaters, because I know that when we had this film in 2020, all the film festivals back then were virtual, so there was nothing in theaters. So I'm really happy. Congratulations on the theatrical release and getting to have a premiere of this.
Well, congratulations to Atlanta's LGBTQ Film Festival. You and many people like you in markets like, smaller niche markets, you guys stepped up and kept on promoting films, online through streaming, things like this. Our film would not have made it through that hump day to get to both that. So thank you to you.
Thank you. I'm honored. I really am. This is a movie about relationships. I wanted to ask you, can you talk briefly about the relationship between Kenneth and Ted, and then later Ted and Martin?
Yeah. Um, Kenneth has had a full life, identifying as a straight male. He in his After his wife passes away, um, in somewhere in his 60s, he falls in love with a man, and he re-identifies, as a gay man. And
Mhm.
he meets my character Ted, also an out, um, gay man, um, and they fall in love. There's a class difference in the relationship. Kenneth was a wealthy lawyer and a businessman. Cape Cod is where he had his summer house. My character Ted was the landscaper of that house. Um, it sounds like the setup for like a bad porno, doesn't it? Like it's like here comes the landscape, here comes the landscape gardener, with tattoos and you know a little sweat on his back. No, well, maybe that's what turned Kenneth on in the first place. There's a little bit of an age difference, there's a class difference, but they fall deeply, deeply in love. And while the film doesn't really go into that relationship, it does tell us that for the son of Kenneth, the man who dies, the shock, his homophobia is not even conscious to him. And it could be argued whether the son is even homophobic at all. Um, the shock of a parent that you've identified, in as at least their sexuality, you've put it in a box. Why else would you think it? And then to have someone have that much fluidity in their sexuality shocks this man. And so it's not a homophobia. It's he's trying to process through the film. Wait, my dad came out as a gay man after I was raised. Now he's died suddenly. And my mother is dead. Now I have to settle his estate in his house with his boyfriend, whom I never liked and really never got to know. Um, of course, they're good screenwriters, so they've set this up like a classic. How are these guys going to get this done? And a lot of the humor comes out of that too. But what unites them, and I guess I could say this about Kenneth, and I guess you could say this about their relationship. As people tell stories about Kenneth, you discover he was an incredibly generous person. I have this beautiful monologue where I say I had this sister who was just a real bitch, and she had to go to dialysis, and she just cussed me out and bitched the whole way. And my character gets out of the car. He's like, "Fine, I'm not taking you anywhere anymore." And Kenneth is the guy who steps up and says, "I'll take her to dialysis." And she calls him all the names and all the homophobic slurs, and he just drives her. He's talked about as being this very giving soul. I think hence the title of the film. In the film, there are givers and there are people who take. And the film argues that the people who are giving and forming community are the people who are going to be okay at the end of the film. So I just thought it was a beautifully pure, hopeful, wildly romantic relationship that these guys found in their 50s and 60s. I don't think it's a population that gets their story told much. I don't think it's, I loved that about it. And the story also, I'll just divulge a little bit into my personal life. I'm the seventh of 11 children. And I lost a brother about eight years ago now, from cancer. He was 47, and he had come out of the closet in his 40s with two children, identifying as a cis male, straight man his entire life, and coming into this identity. I was so proud of him for that. But I saw the struggle. I saw what it cost. I saw I saw his courage, and I found him find joy in being free in that identity. And he did fall in love. And like this, it was a short love because he was taken by liver cancer. But that he was able to become self-actualized before that death sentence was handed to him. Anyway, I watched that all from a front row seat. And although I don't identify as a gay man, I do identify as a straight male. Um, the story, when I read it, I'll just be honest, I just found myself just crying and crying. I was really thinking of my brother, and I thought, this is his story, you know? So it felt something personal with the film. Like I recognized something in the characters. And that's always something for me as an actor that I try to go toward. If there's a recognition on a personal level, I try to steer my ship toward that.
Okay. I love the screenplay of this film. Paul did an amazing job directing it, but I have to ask you about the ensemble here. This is a really tight, wonderful ensemble. Can you just talk about the actors that you got to work with?
Yeah. Well, Jamie Efros again was somebody I'd never heard of. He'd never been on my radar. He plays Martin, but he's also the co-screenwriter of this. What a talent, and now a great friend. He's a wonderful actor. He's kind of the straight man. Ted, my character, is the kind of guy who's kind of fallen apart and gets to do all the crazy shit. Martin is really a guy who's processing the whole film. And Jamie is fantastic. Wonderful actress named Joanne Tucker. Plays sort of his high school friend, and they rekindle. And she's one of those characters in the film who's a real giver, right? She's just there for support. And then Sherry O'Terry, my gosh, I'm such a fan of classic SNL, and we haven't seen a lot of Sherry in the past few years. And what a gold mine, and what a great line she walks in that film of being
Exactly.
really funny, like Judd Apatow funny,
Yeah.
but staying in the world of the film. She plays a wildly ambitious real estate agent with one broken foot and one stiletto heel. I mean, just for the sight gags alone, it's worth the price of admission. She is a fantastic woman. Just loved working with her.
I know that you have another interview coming up, so but I have to ask you. I have to ask you about Bloodline, because that is another favorite of mine. Another show with an amazing ensemble. I mean, everywhere you look,
Yes.
phenomenal actress.
Yeah. That show was a real gift as well. Way out of my comfort zone. I had not done any sort of long form television. I'm mostly a stage actor, and it was shot far from my home in this very exotic place of the Florida Keys, which I had never been to before. So it was a real learning curve to be just in front of the camera that much. But it was a huge blessing, an incredible experience, mostly for the reasons you said. Working with, I could hardly get out of the van on the first day of shooting. There's Sam Shepard, who one of the reasons I became an actor was doing those plays in college. Sissy Spacek, I think I've seen Coal Miner's Daughter at least 100 times. I can actually do a full monologue of her. Are you there, do? See, one day I was just a girl in Butcher Holler, and the next day I'm a married woman, next day I'm having babies, and the next day I'm out here singing for y'all. I have those lines memorized. And so she's my mother. What's going on? And they say it's not good to meet your heroes, but in this case, it was really great to meet my heroes. It was an amazing experience.
That's great. And in addition to my film festival work, I'm a theater critic, so I see a lot of shows. And first of all, just thank you for all the amazing theater you've done. Catch Me If You Can. Jesus, what an amazing show. You were in Rent.
Thank you.
Wicked. Just thank you so much as a musical theater person. Thank you. When do you, obviously we're kind of in limbo right now, but when do you foresee that Broadway will be back in force and we'll be doing shows on a regular basis again?
It's coming, Jim. It's moving quickly. New Jersey and New York are starting to lift certain mandates for certain masking in certain areas. You can just feel it all start opening up again. Yeah. And nothing is for certain, but I've actually participated in 2 workshops of new musicals. And they're in that stage of, working the script and the songs out, trying to raise money to put them on. And they were both awesome experiences. So I'm definitely looking for that next thing where I get to act and sing at the same time. That's really where, my favorite thing to do, I think.
I think so. I know you have a couple of other projects. Do you want to talk about those briefly?
It's so funny. I worked a lot in the pandemic, and so everything's kind of coming out right now with the film. And then in March, I think March 17th or 23rd, an 8-part series for Hulu called The Girl from Plainville is coming out. I just wrapped that before Christmas, and that was a really difficult but really powerful experience. It's a true crime story of Michelle Carter and Conrad Roy Jr. They're a teenage couple from Massachusetts, where he committed suicide in a truck. Texts were found where she was urging him and even almost forcing him to do this. There was a trial and investigation, and she actually went to jail. HBO did a docuseries on it, and now this is the dramatization of it. It's produced and starring Elle Fanning, who is amazing. It's a really incredibly painful story, and I play the father of this boy who commits suicide. So a difficult shoot emotionally, and the subject matter. I have three daughters myself. It was very tough, but really important subject matter, I think, for people to watch, as it is a real warning, again, as if we need any more, but we do, about what we're holding in our hands when we pick up these things and when we use them and abuse them.
Exactly.
So, and then I did this very sweet, lighthearted musical comedy for Disney called Better Nate Than Ever. And that I can't wait for people to see. I play the kind of bumbling dad of the title character. This kid is based on a YA book by a wonderful writer who also did the film. His name is Tim Federle. And Nate is a little sweet, eccentric, crazy, fabulous little boy stuck in the suburbs of Philadelphia or Nowhereville, Pennsylvania, and dying to be on Broadway. It's a Ferris Bueller's Day Off with a sweet little, a musical theater obsessed 13-year-old and his best friend. And they escape to the city and have this incredible adventure. So we're like the dumb parents who leave town. And, these kids are so extraordinary, so extraordinary. The script is hilarious. Lisa Kudrow plays the crazy aunt in the city. And my real life wife, Michelle Federer, plays my wife, Nate's mother in this. So that was a really special project we got to do. It was the first thing we did together since Wicked, which is where we met. So
I cannot wait to see that. The film is Give or Take. It is available in theaters. It's also available on streaming and digital, February the 22nd. Norbert Leo Butz is the star. Norbert, thank you so much for talking to us today. And
thanks for having me.
Talk to you again. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks so much.